Hey guys, what is going on? Chris here with Shughead Gaming, and here are some tips and tricks to eliminate any tracking issues or drift that you might be having while playing Firewall Zero Hour with the aim controller. Now, of course, these tips and tricks will work across all your different games with all your different tracking controllers, but for some reason, the aim controller can be a little bit more finicky when it comes to tracking. First off, we're going to go through the basics, a checklist, if you will, of things that you should be already doing to make sure that you've got the best environment around you to eliminate tracking issues and any drift issues that you might have while playing Firewall Zero Hour or any game for that matter. But I've got a few tips at the end here that for me were absolute game changers when it came to getting rid of that horrible drift in Firewall Zero Hour where the buttstock starts to drift like a ticking clock as you're standing in game. These may be the solutions you're looking for to get your drift under control and your game aiming in line. Firewall Zero Hour actually has amazing tracking with the aim controller, so let's go through this list and get you up to par. First up is lighting, and yes, I know you probably have heard this time and time again, but let's just go over this quickly. The basics. Close those blinds, close those curtains, try to get rid of any daylight if possible. But a pitch black room may not be the solution either, because many people who've tried playing in pure darkness with even their TVs off claim to have horrible tracking. For best results, dim lighting is actually recommended. And if at all possible, keep the lighting in behind the camera, because lighting in front of the camera, even if it's balanced, can still throw it off. But actually, your PSVR camera is not as sensitive to lighting as you might think, and that brings us to our next point, reflections. Take a look around your room, and if you've got pictures on the walls or even a glass coffee table, you might want to consider trying to get those out of view of the camera, because anything that'll reflect the lights that are on your headset or on your controllers can really throw the camera off as it tries to track those. And that brings us to camera height. The absolute worst mistake you can do is to put your camera right at your head height. It might work really great for a lot of games, but it does not work with shooters and the aim controller. The reason for this being, when you raise your gun up to look down the sights, think about what the camera sees. All it sees is a jumble of lights between your gun up by your head and the headlights off of your headset. This confusion can cause crazy tracking issues and also a lot of that gun shake on screen that we all hate. Instead, try raising the camera up a little bit above your head or down below about 2 feet off the ground. A good place to put that would be your TV stand, and then tilt it up. If it's above you, tilt it down. The rule of thumb here is you want to have an angle so that the camera can see both your gun and your headset. But when thinking about camera height, do not forget about the rule of 9 feet. 9 feet is the maximum that your PSVR camera can actually see distance-wise. So when thinking about camera height, it might be time to bust out that trigonometry, because you need to think about how much distance you're losing when you put that camera up high. 9 feet is the max, with 5 feet being optimal. One other quick thing while we're talking about the camera is you may or may not know this, but it is actually the left lens when you are looking straight at your PSVR camera that is actually tracking you. The other lens is used for depth perception, so for best tracking, make sure you're standing in front of the left lens. Another small tip that gets thrown around all the time and is absolutely 100% true is keep your aim controller fully charged if at all possible. As soon as it drops below that halfway mark, tracking does fade a little bit. Another tip and trick that gets thrown around all the time, and I'm not really sure of the validity of it, but hey, we're trying to do everything we can to make sure we get that tracking under control. And that tip would be to hold the controller very still on power up. As you have accelerometers inside your PSVR aim controller that are also calibrating themselves, so it makes sense that you would want to hold this still so that it knows what up is up and left is left and turning is turning, etc. And the last of my basic tips and tricks might be the most fundamental of all. When on the dashboard of your PS4, make sure you go into the settings menu, go into devices, and there you will find a bunch of calibration settings under PlayStation VR. It is here that you can update to the most recent firmware for your PSVR, because yes, that is separate from the firmware updates on your PS4. It is also here that you will do the calibration settings for the tracking, funny, for your controllers. This will be the one where it flashes the controller on and off for the controller that you want to track, and will ask you to hold it up to the camera and center it on the circle on the screen. If you haven't done this before or you haven't done it in a long time, it might be time to do it. Okay, so now you've done all of what I consider the basics, and you're still having tracking issues while you're playing Firewall Zero Hour. Here are 2 things that I recommend that might actually be the solution that you're looking for. Number 1 is very simple. Whether in the main menu screen or even if you're in the game and having tracking issues right there, hold the PlayStation button on your PSVR aim controller and turn off that device. Then boot it back up in-game and carry on. This hard reset, especially if you keep the controller fairly still as it boots back up, might be the solution you're looking for. And finally, something that was recommended to me almost 2 years ago that has actually made a world of difference in my tracking. There are a few games out there that have brilliant calibration settings as part of their basic setup. One game in such is Batman Arkham VR. What you're looking for is a game that tells you not only where to stand in your play space, but also shows you where your headset needs to be. Batman Arkham VR is actually brilliant for this because, yes, it tells you where to stand, but it also gives you the choice of either sitting or standing, and then it gives you a box to show you where your headset needs to be. This is fantastic for setting up camera placement because it doesn't rely on what you think is proper placement, but will actually give you proper positioning for standing and camera height depending on whether you're standing or sitting. So if you've previously had Batman Arkham Knight, I strongly recommend re-downloading the game to your dashboard, going through the calibration settings, getting set up properly, then grab your aim controller, jump back into Firewall Zero Hour. And while this solution might sound incredibly simple, it actually works. It doesn't have to be Batman Arkham Knight. If you've got another game that tracks very similarly, then try that out. Remember, you want something that tells you where to stand when you look down, but also shows you on screen where it wants to see your headset. This will allow you to make the adjustments to your camera for optimal tracking. So guys, try those tips and tricks out, and in the comments below, let me know if it worked for you, if it didn't work for you, and if you guys have got any other tips and tricks that you want to share with subscribers and viewers, please leave them in the comments below, and let's get an awesome discussion going, because Firewall Zero Hour does have good tracking. We just have to figure out how to get our setups set up. As always, guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more PSVR content from me, you know the deal. Please consider subscribing. And for updates, hit that bell icon. I will catch you guys on my next video.